32nd paragraph. The spiritual life is not a what?
Theory.
Theory. Okay. Dave is going to read us the definition of the word theory.
Oh boy. I wish we didn't kind of a little shorter dictionary. It comes from Greek or Latin and looking at contemplating speculation theory. 1. A doctrine or scheme of things which terminates in speculation or contemplation without a view of practice, speculation, and contemplation. An exposition of the general principles of any science, such as the theory of music. The science as distinguished from the art, as in the theory of medicine and the practice of medicine. Theory of AA and the practice. The principle,
Right on.
the principle,
That's good enough. Okay. What you said is perfect. Okay. See, it's not a theory. Now, unfortunately, many of us view this as theoretical. See, this whole business about God and spiritual principles and the necessity of admitting that we're powerless and relying on God and being honest, taking our inventory, making our amends. And we just never come to an understanding that there are spiritual principles in the universe which work. See, and there are selfish principles that we live by that don't work. Now, it says that the next sentence is in italics. So what do we know about italics in the book? Yeah, don't pay any attention to this. See, it says we have to live it. Okay, now up here on the board I've got Nelson New Guy and Polly Pure Pants. And they're out here living this life that isn't working. See, they're both drunk. And so their life is full of rain and collisions and lightning bolts and see, all this kind of stuff. And as Bill says, under the lash of alcoholism, they're driven where? To AA. See, and they walk through the door that swings both ways in AA. See, and they end up over here, see, in an AA meeting. See, and now they are happy. Now everything's just wonderful because they assume that suddenly the world became spiritual. And this magic thing happened when they walked through the door of Alcoholics Anonymous. Suddenly, the universe turned spiritual. See, just because they walked through this door. See, wrong. The universe was spiritual out here. See, and the universe is going to be spiritual when they get out here again. See, we live in a spiritual world. See, our problem is we don't know what the rules are. See, convinced that what manifested in various ways defeated us? Self. Not booze, not the drugs, liquor was but a symptom. Okay, so, Polly and Nelson get over here, and they put the plug in the jug, and then they become the alcoholics who think that sobriety is enough, and all of a sudden, something happens over here that they don't expect. See, this is called SOS. Everybody know what SOS stands for? Same old shit. Okay? And then Polly and Nelson get to go back through the door that swings both ways. They end up here, and the reason they have to return, see, is that they don't live it. That's it. It's very simple. Spiritual life is not a theory. We, who's we? Recovered alcoholics have to live it. Not talk it, not attend it, not wish or dream or hope for it. We have to live it. We have to be into action. We have to grow along spiritual lines. Remember page 60. Point is that we are willing to grow along spiritual lines. This isn't a theory. It's all observable facts. Anybody can see it that wants to open their eyes and take a look. See, so what you don't want to be is someone who has to go back through the door that swings both ways. See, what the book is making very plain to us is why people have to go back, see, where they were. See, it ain't because they lost their conscious contact with God. It ain't about missing meetings, and it ain't about calling phone numbers in our wallet. See, and it ain't about about not talking to our sponsor, and it ain't about any of that. It's you either live it or you don't live it. See, in Alcoholics Anonymous, we're given an opportunity, see, to learn the rules and live them. See, and if we don't want it, then good luck. We love you. The end. Okay? Spiritual life is not a theory. See, so ask yourself, you think of all this as theoretical? Okay? It's a good idea, no real applicability to my existence, my life, what I want, what I'm going to do. Okay, we have to live it. Okay, now they're going to say something which is going to continue on through the rest of the 164 pages from here on out. See, and what they're going to tell us, see, it boils down to pretty much is, see, demonstrate the principles and keep our mouths shut. See, when it comes to this stuff. Don't nag. Okay? So, unless one's family, see, and we have now made amends to the family, expresses a desire to live upon spiritual principles, we think we ought to what? Not urge them. It doesn't say ignore them. It doesn't say detach. It doesn't say tough love them. It says we ought to not do something. See, and that is to urge them to get sober, to read the book, to practice spiritual principles. We ought to not do that unless they express a desire. Now, what does the words express a desire mean? Yeah, ask or say something, say, on their side. Hey, what's this all about? Can you show me this? Explain that. Why are you doing that? Something like that. Unless they express a desire, see, to live upon spiritual principles, we think we ought not urge them. We should not talk incessantly. Everybody know what incessant means? Unceasingly. We should not talk incessantly to them about spiritual matters. See, no matter how powerful a spiritual experience you have going, see, no matter how firm your belief and how clear you get, see, we should not talk incessantly to them about it. Okay, here comes a promise. What's the promise?
They will change in time.
Absolutely true. See, they will change in time. Can't be avoided. Okay. It says our behavior will convince them more than what?
Our work.
See, so what do we all need to concentrate on?
Behavior.
Our behavior. Okay, see, remember the word demonstration from page 19? Much more important, demonstration, not discussion, of our principles, lies before us in our respective homes, occupations, and affairs. And so the best way to carry the message to anybody is to simply demonstrate it. See, that is where the whole business about the program of attraction comes from. See, they will change in time. Our behavior will convince them more than our words. See, this is very difficult stuff, especially for those of us who have husbands, wives, sons, daughters, mothers, dads, see, who are drinking, see, who are pretty screwed up individuals. See, it's not so hard for some of us if our families are, pretty stable. But for those of us who've got, big alcohol and drug problems going on, see, the temptation to urge and to nag and offer a solution that's unwanted and all that sort of stuff is very great. See, they keep telling us in the book over and over and over again, to continue to do that causes more harm than good. See, it's hard to resist, see, the desire to do that. See, so you're going to see them say this in various ways throughout the remainder of the book study. Okay, so as they will change in time, our behavior will convince them more than our words. We must remember that 10 or 20 years of drunkenness would make a skeptic out of anyone. Remember, for years we have so shockingly treated. See, and actually, people who have been around me for 10 or 20 minutes when I'm drunk, see, become pretty skeptical of what's going on. Okay, now here come the last kinds of amends, and all of us usually have one, two, or a few of these. See, there may be some wrongs we can never fully right. See, it could be that people have died, they have disappeared, you have no idea where they are. Could be you know where they are, but for whatever circumstances you're unable to make a direct amend to them because injury or harm could get done to them or third parties. See, there are all kinds of ways that there can be an amend that can't be made directly. Okay, so it says we don't worry about them. See, underline that, especially if you've got some of those. It says we don't worry about them, but there is a requirement. It It's a big requirement. See, because it's very easy to kid ourselves about this. We don't worry about them if we can, what's the next word? Honestly say to ourselves that we would write them if we could. Remember that willingness is indispensable. We saw that at the beginning of the discussion of step 6. See, that is the key thing here. See, so even though there are people that you can't make an amend to, see, you got to honestly be able to say to yourself that you would do it, see, if they were there in front of you and it wouldn't hurt them. That's what my sponsor taught me, and then I began to see as I went along the power in that. See, that comes just from the willingness. See, willingness is some pretty powerful spiritual grease, and can't be overestimated. Okay, so we need to be honest with ourselves, because it's very easy, especially if we got a difficult amend, to say, oh, it'll hurt them, therefore I'm not going to do it, see, and never really be honest with ourselves about it. So it's something that you see. The responsibility here is really heavy on you in this area. See, we have to be honest with ourselves, with God. Okay, so, but if you can honestly say that you would write them if you could, see, then it's something that you don't need to worry about. Okay, now it says some people cannot be seen. We send them an honest letter. There may be a valid reason for postponement in some cases. See, some people may be dead. I think I've mentioned this before, is that there are cases where amends, see, we're pretty clear that we owe some amends. Years of shockingly treated somebody. I think I told you all about the one with my mom, see, where there wasn't much I could do for my mom other than be honest with her. See, but I was real clear that didn't cut it. See, I did owe amends, and what happened was that simply, people were put in my life, see, who were a lot like my mom, see, and who needed some service, see, and I got to make my amends to my mom over and over and over again, see, by being of service to other people. And there was a grandmother that died in 1961. I screwed her over pretty good when I was a young man, and see, I got to make my amends to her, see, by making amends to other people, being of service to other people who were a lot like her. See, and I could spot them when God put them in my life. Well, here's another one. See, well, just give them 100% and go for it. And as a result of going through that process, I get to live, without any guilt and regret and all that kind of stuff having to do with the amends that I couldn't actually do face to face, or which where nothing further other than the words could be done. So, remember the promise on page 63 that God will provide what you need. See, in many cases, you need whatever opportunity there is to make the amends. See, and if you're honest with yourself, you'll see the need to do that. Remember the word utmost? We need to be doing our utmost to get all this stuff straightened out, not the least we can do. See, we need to have an attitude of what's the most I can do. There may be a valid reason for postponement in some cases, but we don't delay if it can be avoided. Okay, so that's all pretty clear there. Everybody understand it? We don't delay if it can be avoided. Okay, we should be, now here comes 6 words. In the next 2 paragraphs, I'm going to ask you to underline a whole lot of words, see, in this sentence and in the promise paragraph, and then I'm going to ask you to look them up. Okay, now you don't have to. Last Sunday, Sunday before last, I asked everybody in the book study to look up simply the word new, see, because it kept popping up in the book. And this Sunday, I said, how many people did that? Nobody did it. Okay, so I'm going to ask you to do some homework, see, and you can do it or not do it. But see, I do ask you for a reason. There's something behind the request. It's not just busy work. Okay, here comes 6 words. See, we don't delay if it can be avoided. We should be. Number 1, sensible. Look up sensible. Number 2, tactful. Look up tactful. Number 3, considerate. Look up considerate. Number 4, humble. Look up humble. Then it says without being. Look up servile and look up scraping. So as we go out to make our amends, see, we need to be these 4 things and not these other 2 things. There it See, there's nothing wimp and doormat and victim and dish rag about what we're trying to do here. You're not going to get turned into a jelly bean, see, and get trod upon and, turn the other cheek and let people whip up on you and spend your money and see all that kind of stuff. See, these are things that we all need to find out what they are, see, and start to strive for that, see, and to be coming from this place. Servile and scraping pretty much boils down. Anybody ever had a dog you've mistreated? I had this great golden retriever and I mistreated him a lot. So when I had a certain tone in my voice, I'd make him come over wherever I was, and he'd like get down on all fours and sort of slide along the floor with his tail between his legs, and he knew I was going to kick the shit out of him. And that's what I thought amends were all about, is, go sliding up to somebody's door with my tail between my legs, whimpering, and don't hit me, and see, all that kind of stuff. See, and that's not what we're talking about here. See, so I'd like to really urge you, see, to understand the words in that sentence. Okay, it says, as God's people, we stand on our feet. See, now, can you honestly say to yourself, I'm one of God's people? Have you done the work? See, can you back up the statement? See, is it a vain claim in your life? As God's people, what do? See, we stand on our feet. See, we don't crawl before anyone. But this isn't a theory. It's not a vain claim. And it needs to be backed up by action. So where are you with that? See, it's what you need to ask yourself. Okay, now we're coming up to the promises. And so I'm just going to read this, and I'm going to ask you to highlight a whole bunch of words here, and then I'm going to ask you to get a dictionary and look up the definitions and copy them out on a piece of paper. Once again, so you don't have to do it, but I think you'd be amazed if you do. Okay, so it says, if we are painstaking, look up painstaking. About this phase, look up phase. Of our development, look up development. See, we will be amazed, look up amazed. See, before we are halfway through, look up the word through. See, we are going to know, look up the word know. A new, if you haven't already done new, put that one in here. Look up the word freedom. And a new, look up the word happiness. See, and some of these you're going to, especially where they're adverbs, look up the noun, happy. So we will not regret, look up regret. The past, look up past. Nor wish to shut the door on it. Look up the word shut. And the word door. We will comprehend, look up the word comprehend. The word, look up the word word. Serenity, look up serenity. And we will know, you've already got that one. Peace, look up the word peace. No matter how far down the scale, look up the word scale. Okay, we have gone. We will see, look up the word see again if you haven't done it. I suggest that a lot in the first half of book study. See in all of its versions, see, saw, seen, all that kind of stuff. We will see how our experience, look up the word experience, can benefit, so look up benefit and others. Okay, that feeling, so look up feeling of uselessness, look up uselessness, and look up self-pity, will, major promise, disappear. Okay, look up disappear. Okay, we will lose, look up lose, look up interest, look up selfish things, gain, look up gain, interest in our fellows. See, look up fellows. See what the difference between fellows and others is. Self-seeking, look up self-seeking. Will slip, look up the word slip. Away, look up away. A lot of work here.
Just say look up.
Daddy will be there proud of us.
See, our whole, look up the word whole. The word attitude, the word outlook, the word life, and the word change. Our whole attitude and outlook upon life will change. Fear, look up fear. I think you all did that when we did step 5, but if you don't have it, look it up again. People, look up people, economic, and insecurity. Fear of people and economic insecurity will leave us. We will intuitively, look up intuitive, see, intuition and intuitively, all the forms of that. We will intuitively know, we already got that one, how to handle, look up handle. Pump don't work because the vandals took the handles. Handle and situations which used to baffle us, look up baffle. We will suddenly, remember this word from the doctor's opinion, chapter 2? Suddenly, look up suddenly. Realize, look up realize, that God, look up God, see, is doing for us what we could not do for ourselves. Right, look up do and doing. Okay. Are these, keep going, are these extravagant? See, look up extravagant, look up promise. See, we think, look up think if you don't remember that from page 35. Not. See, they are being fulfilled. Looked up fulfill among us. Sometimes quickly, look up quickly. Sometimes slowly, look up slowly. See, and here's another promise. See, they will always, look up materialize, and always, if we look up work for them. Okay, and we'll start with step 10 next week. Okay, see, that's a lot of words to look up, and see, but I think you'll be glad you did once you do it.
I have a question.
Sure.
Where do the promises actually start?
These
Our
are
pain station?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we were going to do a new
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, see, this paragraph's very important in the book. See, and this is what's commonly called the promises in Alcoholics Anonymous. See, but this is only 12 or 13 of them right here. See, there are about 170 or so promises in the book. See, of various kinds and in various places, and some of them are even more powerful than these. See, but these are very important, and we need to understand them. See, we're not here to talk about them. See, we're here to get them. See, to have them become the reality in our lives. See, without the truth of this, then you don't know what a spiritual awakening is. See, it's just idle words and a bunch of chit-chat. So this stuff is reality. It is not a theory. See, you might just ask, remember one of these is we'll suddenly realize that God's doing for us what we couldn't do for ourselves. See, and these are things that none of us can do for ourselves. Okay, now, just before we knock off, I want to do one more thing that I learned from Joe and Charlie, and you might find this useful in working with people. So go back to page 83. See, when Joe and Charlie do their big book seminar, they always come to this place, and Charlie starts reading, and this is what he says. So go to the third line in the last paragraph where the promises start. It says, we're going to know a new freedom. He says, I want you to understand what alcohol did for me. He said, I take a drink of alcohol and I know a new freedom and a new happiness. See, when I drink, I don't regret the past. I don't wish to shut the door on it. I take a drink of alcohol and I suddenly comprehend the word serenity and I know peace. See, when I drink, no matter how far down the scale I've gone, I can see how I can help other people. See, when I drink, that feeling of uselessness and self-pity disappears. When I drink, I lose interest in selfish things, and I gain interest in my fellows. See? When I drink, self-seeking slips away. See? My whole attitude and outlook upon life changes when I take a drink of alcohol. See? I start drinking in fear of people, and of economic insecurity leaves me. See? I get drunk, and I intuitively know how to handle situations see, which were baffling me. See? And I suddenly realize that alcohol does for me what I can't do for myself. See? That's pretty amazing. See, that makes a lot of sense to me. Okay, so you might find that thing useful sometimes when you're working, especially with newcomers. I've used it a lot. Okay, that's where we're gonna pick up with step 10 next week, and
Somewhat thicker than others.
okay, anybody got any questions about any of the amend stuff that we have gone over now? Or that again, are these extravagant? Start your homework or do any of that? Looking those things up. Did you learn anything?
You have one A student.
Yeah. Who did it?
Part of it, yeah.
Yeah.
Started.
I spent hours. 80 words, you know.
What'd you learn?
Well, I highlighted a lot. You want me to share?
Well, just a little. You don't have to go through everything.
All 80 words. I mean, I haven't really highlighted that much. Sensible, able to feel, aware. Meek is patient. Submit, to yield oneself to the will. Painstaking, taking pain, careful. Development, to make available or usable. Through, out into the open, allowing continuous passage, unobstructed. Know, to be capable of. Practical, firmly secured in the mind. Familiar with. Happy, cheerfully willing. Regret, distress over desire unfulfilled for an action performed or not performed. Comprehend, significance of, to know thoroughly. The word. And it's interesting when you do it as you go along, because it really just helps you to understand what's being said. Word, a promise, assurance, a direction to do something. Order. Serenity, tranquil, unclouded, bright. Peace, agreement. Agreement to end hostility. Freedom, harmony, public security. Calm. Serenity, peace of mind. To see, to believe possible, to undergo, to find out, to meet regularly, as in daily. Interest, willingness to give special attention to something. Slip, to move quietly, stealthily, covertly, hidden or secret. Whole, complete, not divided or disjoined, sound, healthy. Attitude of carrying oneself, kind of like a foundation. Life, relationships, manner of living. Change, to exchange for or replace by another. Intuitively, sharp insight. Suddenly, without warning, abrupt, rapid, swift. To realize, to comprehend completely or correctly, to make real or actual.
That's an important definition there. Is it correct? Able to tell true from false. Get something correctly.
Okay, God, the principal object of faith and worship. It's Jack May. Just for a minute.
Okay. Keep going.
Okay, to do, to fulfill, complete, produce, to bring about, to put into action, to work at, to work out or solve, to meet the needs of sufficiently, suit. Promises, a declaration assuring that one will or will not do something. Indication of something forthcoming, especially future excellence or success. Fighting, to struggle, to try to prevent, oppose, conflict. Those are the ones that
To
really
prevent.
give me the most.
To struggle, that's a good one. You said struggles to prevent?
Fighting is the word that I looked
Oh,
up.
fighting.
To struggle, to try to prevent, oppose,
Yeah, like when you say you're fighting, working this through or something. You just can't, you just see that image, you can't let it come through. Yeah.
Doodling with
To
it.
prevent, I didn't think of that. Good work, Liz.
Yeah. Lavish, wasteful, excessive, unrestrained.
The question in the book is, are these extravagant? Lavish, wasteful, unnecessary, that kind of stuff, absurd, ridiculous, unrealistic. Is it unrealistic? Is it extravagant to have this in your life? Are these extravagant promises? Not, do you think? Yeah, it's their experience. We think not. See, they are being fulfilled among us, sometimes quickly and sometimes slowly. So, what do you think the determining factor in fulfillment of the promises would be? Action. How much work you actually do. See, would pretty much be the determiner of what you get. Okay, so pretty clearly, what they're telling us here is that these are not freebies. See, we're just putting the plug in the jug and sitting around and doing nothing and justifying whatever it is that goes on in our life. See, we probably can't reasonably expect to have these things occur. See, so if these things don't occur, see, what is occur? Hi, Dana.
Yeah, can you shut the kitchen door?
Does it make sense to you that the opposite of what we're looking at here is the middle paragraph on page 52? So you get one or you get the other? Is there any half measures? I'm full of misery and depression, but I've got peace and happiness. My relationships don't work, but I'm afraid of people and economic insecurity. They're pretty much mutually exclusive kinds of things. See, so we stay in the unmanageable life, see, or these promises can be fulfilled in our lives, and that's for each and every one of us, if we're willing to do the work and to follow the directions. See, so that's a pretty major promise there, where it says they will always materialize. Materialize means to come into being. They will always do that. See, now why is that? Well, see, if we all hit Daniel in the nose as hard as we could, see, his nose would bleed. And it would probably bleed each and every time he got hit, see, because a certain kind of action produces a certain kind of result. See, so spiritual action produces spiritual results. What's the chapter title here? Into action. Okay, see, well, what kind of action? Spiritual action. Okay? And that produces spiritual results. Okay, so all you got to do is look at your own experience. Doesn't everybody in here have some experience of a lot of self-help and a lot of psychobabble and a lot of, that kind of stuff, treatment center stuff, psychiatric stuff? And what result got produced? Did these promises get produced by that kind of result? No, see, they produce some other kind of result. See, so the results we're looking at here, see, are spiritual results. Okay, they're not intellectual results, psychiatric results, psychological results, emotional results. They're not feelings results. Okay, they're not the results of a little child within. Okay. You ever heard anybody go to a meeting, see, and say, I suddenly realized that a little child within is bringing me all these promises? Okay. Everybody's looking for this little child. Nobody finds him. Okay. Maybe it's not there. They will always materialize if we, and what's the next word? All right, did you have work on your list, Liz?
Did you tell us?
I think so. If I didn't,
Yeah, it's the last word, actually.
On government, so you'll understand.
Yes.
What was it, Lon?
Physical or mental effort, labor, a task or duty, something that has been produced as a result of effort. An act or a deed, something being made or studied or processed. Slang, the whole lot, everything, to have an influence or effect as on the feelings.
Great. So, there's lots. See, work implies work. Ah!
Achievement.
They will always materialize if we coast. They will always materialize if we rest on our laurels. No.
Pray.
Yeah. See, if we work for it. See, everybody remember that. Yeah. If we cruise. See, there was only 1 hour off in the whole program. See, and that was at the end of step 5. See, we're 5 steps down. See, from step 5. See, that was the one and only break. See, that we get. Just take that hour off after the 5th step. See, lie down, but work even then. Okay. See, now the word work is very important because, see, the next clause there at the beginning of the next sentence, which is the start of the step 10 discussion, says this thought brings us to step 10. What thought?
Work.
Yeah.
The idea of working.
Yeah, the idea of working is the thought that brings us to step 10. See, working for, see, an achievable, predictable result. Everybody see that? See, so this thought brings us to step 10. Okay, it's not, see, some other thought doesn't bring us to step 10. See, I feel bad, that's not the thought that brings us to step 10. See, it's this thought brings us to step 10. Okay, which suggests, and here we find the word suggest again, see, that we continue to take personal inventory. There's an assumption there then, isn't there? See, that we started somewhere and that we have grasped something. About the value of taking our inventory, see, and finding out where we're wrong, see, instead of blaming other people and taking their inventory and calling them selfish and it's their fault and all that. See, so ask yourself, have you begun to grasp that? Is that getting clearer and clearer? See, so we continue to take personal inventory, so underline continue there, see, and then we're going to have another continue, see, and continue to set right any new mistakes as we go along. You might just look at your experience of listening to Step 10 discussions in AA meetings. See, how often do you hear that kind of thought expressed? See, about continuing to do something that you learned how to do in the 4th and 5th step. See, and also continuing to do something that you learned how to do in the 8th and 9th step. See, setting right any new mistakes as we go along. See, in cooking school, they call that clean as you go. Everybody know that? Clean as you go.
Clean all the dishes.
Yeah. Okay. Now it says we vigorously commence this what? Way of living. All right, so everybody getting real clear that the AA way of life, as presented in the book, has nothing to do with what you see on the bulletin boards. Okay. Other, outside AA activities has nothing to do with the AA way of life, as the book talks about this as a way of living. So we vigorously commence this way of living. So ask yourself, have you vigorously commenced? Commence means to start this way of living. See, as we did what? Okay, see, so there's an assumption here, see, that we are making our amends. See, that we have at least have begun to go out and clean up the wreckage of our past. So you might have noticed, just in your own experience, there was something that happened to me. If I was balking somewhere along the line, then everything else I tried to do didn't work very well. If I wasn't doing my amends, I found myself unable to do the 10th step. Working with others didn't work very well. Everything kind of like starts going real sour as soon as I start balking at something that I'm supposed to be doing here. You have that experience?
Right,
So,
exactly.
so you might just pay attention to learn from those things instead of beating yourself up about them. And notice that the best way to take your inventory anytime you notice that stuff is going wrong, is good. First place to go generally is, where am I balking at something? Okay, go there and look, because that's where you'll find the root of whatever all this other stuff is. Does that make sense? And as soon as you go back, admit that, get back on the path, all these other things start to work again. Suddenly you can be of service, suddenly you can take your inventory, suddenly you can think clearly, all that. Does that make sense? It happened to me, 8 or 9 million times before I got it. How to do that. Okay, so we vigorously commenced this way of living. So, take one more time. Have you? Are you committed to it? Is it a decision? You're going to stick with it. We commenced this way of living, as opposed to what? Column 4 on our inventories, which was the dubious path. So we vigorously commenced this way of living as we cleaned up the past. So the assumption is that we have either begun or completed, our amends step. Okay, now, here is a promise, a statement of fact, that will result, from the doing of these things. See, we have entered the world of the Spirit. Okay? So, a lot of us are still going, well, the sky didn't open up yet. See, the finger of God didn't come down and write, hello, Mike, on my forehead, or whatever it is that we're thinking in those terms. See, so we need to be, honest in the sense of looking at what's actually going on in our life. How did we get this far? See, how has what has happened up to this point happened up to this point? Is this something we could have done for ourselves? Is there any evidence whatsoever that we have indeed done what they call entering the world of the Spirit? Even though you may not have had some kind of white light cosmic experience going on. Have you entered the world of the Spirit? True or false? Take a look. What's the evidence in your life? Okay. It says we have entered the world of the Spirit. See, some of us only have our toe in. Some of us are up to our knees. See? Some of us dove in head first. See? But we're all heading in the same direction now, right? We're all taking the same steps. Okay. So that's cool. However you entered it, see, you can go in ass first if you want to. But, you go in with skid marks, but see, go in, all right? So we have entered the world of the Spirit. Okay, let's all read the next sentence together out loud.
Our next function is to grow in understanding and effectiveness.
Okay. Now, see, what do understanding and effectiveness mean to you in that sentence? Does that sound like you ought to be somebody sitting in a meeting going, I don't know how this works. I just keep coming back. See, I got 36 years sober, and I still don't know how it works. I just know that I'm here. You ever hear that stuff?
Yeah.
See, does that sound like anybody who grew in understanding? And it used to baffle me when I was a newcomer and didn't understand any of this. How could that be? How can somebody be sober 30 years and not know how the program works? So our next function is to grow in understanding and effectiveness, and there's a lot to that. See, so you need to, maybe make a little note to yourself to explore, what they're talking about. See, spiritual growth, the understanding and effectiveness of these spiritual principles as applied to every area of our life. Working with others and transmitting the message. Being of service not only in AA but everywhere. Our homes, our occupations, and our affairs. Being open-minded. There's just tons of stuff there to grow in understanding and effectiveness. And if you remember, or if you don't remember, go back and look on page 60, right on the next paragraph under the steps, where it says the point is that we are willing to grow along spiritual lines. Okay? And they are giving us some very clear kinds of spiritual lines along which to grow. Okay? Some pretty clear-cut directions. And what you're going to see here in the remainder of this paragraph is some pretty clear-cut direction on how to do the 10th step. See? And it'll probably sound a little different from what you've heard in AA meetings. But generally, some of the old-timers I know up in Sacramento, people who've been around a while and understand this, I'm sure you've heard this, if you want to hide something from the alcoholic, put it in the big book. If you don't want them to know what's going on, put it in the big book. Well, see, you'll understand what this is about here. Okay, so our next function is to grow in understanding and effectiveness. Now, why would they put that sentence right at the beginning of the discussion of step 10? It might follow in the directions in step 10, have something to do with growing in understanding and effectiveness. So how are we going to do that? Are we going to make it up ourselves? Or are there some directions in how to go about doing this thing? Okay, so our next function is to grow in understanding and effectiveness. This is not an overnight matter. Okay, anybody here find as a shortcoming, like this demand for instant results? That kind of stuff? Want it to boom, that's it. I don't want to work a long time, I don't want to ease my way, I want wham, that kind of stuff. Okay, so, there's an old idea a lot of us have to get over. For some of us it's tougher than for other people. But they're very clearly stated here. This is not an overnight matter. Nobody is going to be, is anybody here white as snow yet? The result of the work up to this point. Nobody got turned into a saint, walks on water, not even Daniel. Okay, so it's not an overnight matter. Let's all read the next sentence together.
It should continue for our lifetime.
Are you committed? Are you committed to that?
Have an option.
Are you committed? It should continue. What should continue? Yeah, continuing to grow in understanding and effectiveness. Okay. Now, it's here come the directions, so you might want to highlight the remainder of this paragraph or number the sentences 1, 2, 3, and 4 any way you want to do that. So that you need to be really clear about this. See, so it says continue, which means somewhere along the line you started, to watch. Now, what does the word watch mean? We're not talking about wristwatch. Right? Look or see or to observe or notice. Be aware. Okay. They continue to watch. See, for 4 things. Okay. Notice what they are. Resentment, dishonesty. No, selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, fear. Okay. Clear-cut direction.